All right. My guest for this episode is Nathan Keane. He is the owner of Good Wolf Probiotic Soda, and I'm super excited to learn about his story. And I hope it inspires you here at the start of 2026. Nathan, could you introduce yourself more to listeners?
Absolutely. Thanks, Siobhan. I'm excited to be here. So, my name is Nathan Keane, and my wife and I moved here from St. Louis, Missouri in 2018. So, we've been here almost 8 years. I'm a dad. We have an almost 2-year-old and another on the way. So, growing family, growing business, and we live out here in Troutdale, Oregon. And I go to church with Siobhan at Imago Dei East Side, and that's how we know each other. So, just excited to be here today and share more of my story.
Yes. Shout out Imago Dei, Eastside.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, Nathan, you moved out here to the Pacific Northwest. You weren't a business owner yet. What brought you guys out here?
It was my wife's idea, actually. It's kind of a funny story. So we started dating in 2017. And on our second date, Casey, I picked her up and we were driving to our second date. And she kind of looked over and said, by the way, I'm moving to Oregon in 6 months. And so I was just like, hold on.
Oh, man.
Second date, dropping that bomb on me. That was really funny. But that actually kind of inspired us to be really intentional in dating and take it very seriously. And she did end up waiting a little while. We actually visited Oregon together at 6 months from them, and we got engaged here. So yeah, just about 6 months after dating, we got engaged, and short engagement, and moved here in 2018. So 1 year from a meeting, we got married and moved here. So it was her idea. She visited with her family when she was in high school, I believe, and they kind of traveled all over the country on vacations and stuff like that. And this, I think, just really spoke to them. They felt like God was calling them to move here to the Pacific Northwest, and we settled on the Portland area.
Nice. Yeah. I love hearing how people get together, and then that's a pretty unique time frame.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
for me, especially
Yeah.
because I have a big family in St. Louis, I never thought I was going to leave. And I'm one of 8 siblings. I've
Mm.
got like 26 cousins, or there's 27 total cousins and stuff like that. So I never thought I would leave. And so that's definitely been a challenge, being away from my family. But, the nature is really what called Casey. And her mom moved out here as well. And so she lives 2 doors down from us, which is really nice, having that kind of
Oh,
close,
great.
close family around, especially because she watches our son twice a week. Anyways, we're
Yeah.
loving the beautiful, beautiful nature out here, and the ocean and mountains and everything. So we love it here.
Yes. Yeah. It's great to have grandma close, and so
Mm-hmm.
you've got that support.
It's huge.
So 2018 got out here, but you didn't have the business. What did you do when you got out here, and then what inspired you to start Good Wolf?
Great question. So in St. Louis, I was a paint prepper at a collision repair shop. I had been doing that for 2 years. Before that, I was doing different things, from being a laborer with a backhoe company, digging ditches and stuff like that. I got my degree in, like, a certificate to do auto repair, and then was doing auto repair when I met Casey, and I decided I wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful. I had met a homeless guy back at that time, and developed a strong relationship with him, and was trying to help him get on his feet. I actually helped him get his
Mm.
permit and Social Security and get a job. But he kind of turned around and robbed my house. And, despite really caring
Mm.
about me, we'd been friends for over,
Mm.
I want to say, around 2 years. And yet he still robbed me.
Wow.
And so I realized, he had serious, like,
Mm.
mental health and addiction issues. And I couldn't help him. I'm just one person. He needed a really support system,
Mm.
and I didn't have the education or anything either. So anyways, that kind of inspired me when we moved to Oregon to finish my degree. So I got a bachelor's of social work. I graduated from Warner Pacific College, 2021.
Oh.
So anyways, before that, you asked why I started the business. As a kid, I had gut health issues, stomach aches, and just cramps and stuff like that. Uh, that's something that I just dealt with for a long time. And as an adult, it, I guess it started to get worse. And so I started taking probiotic supplements, and that helped.
Mm.
But it was kind of expensive. So I also was drinking kombucha and started making my own kombucha. and it didn't taste too good, to be honest with you. I don't think I was fermenting it long enough, and so it would just be like, it was kind of just too sugary, or I would ferment it too long and it was just like vinegar. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just kind of figured it out. And then when we moved here, I kept making it and just kept refining my skills. And I discovered a world of berries out here in Oregon. I discovered Marion berries and Tay berries and all the just awesome crown blackberries and things like that at the farmers markets. I would buy them and puree them and put it in a kombucha, and it made it taste really good. Started sharing this with family and friends, and people were kind of saying, wow, you could sell this. And so it's the classic story of, okay, well, maybe I will. And so we, went to the Gresham Farmers Market all the time, and it kind of inspired me to try to sell it at the farmers markets. So
Wow.
I kind of went down that road of figuring out how to do it. But I realized, okay, I need a business license. I need a license from Oregon Department of Agriculture for like a food safety license. I need equipment, fees, everything. All of a sudden, I was in this thing like $3,000. Thankfully, at the time, that was in 2020, I got the what was it? The COVID check from President Trump at the time. It was like $1,200, or I think we each got one. I think we got like $2,400. So that was kind of the seed money to start the business. And we're in this thing like $3,000, and I was like, well, I guess I need to kind of make money, and it sort of just snowballed into a whole business.
Wow. You had friends and family encouraging you, like you could sell this. Between you and Casey, who was more confident that this was going to work?
No question about it. Me, for sure. I had to kind of convince her to spend all this money on it.
Okay. Yes. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs or folks that are thinking about a business that's a challenge. Besides the idea of the business, besides, filling out all the forms for licenses, but like their partner, like, so can you share a little bit like how conversations like that went and what worked?
Sure. So this is 5 years ago. So let me try to remember. I think I was, running some numbers and telling her, hey, well, I just need to sell one $5 cup every 6 minutes to make $300 a market, and there's just profit, and I can actually make money. I was trying to convince her, like, I can make at least a little bit of money. It's just a summer gig. What's it going to hurt? Especially with the settlement check or whatever, the stimulus check. So yeah, I think, at the time, we were both just thinking it was maybe a summer thing. What would it hurt? And I just really wanted to do it. I think Casey just saw my passion, and she saw that it was something that I really wanted to do. But, to be honest, actually, I think she didn't have the vision that I would be doing this full time with a team, with national distribution 5 years later. She just saw it as a fun hobby. And she was really the one who pushed me to do it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think she didn't realize how much it would cost and all that. But yeah, I'm remembering. Thanks for reminding me about this and helping me to think back, because that is a funny part of the story, is that she was the one who told me to do it. She said, you should do it. And
okay.
It kind of reminds me of, so she told me twice. And then the third time when she said, you should do this, that's when I was like, okay, my wife is telling me 3 times, she must be serious. So let's do it.
Okay. So she, that third time she handed the baton to you, you took it, and then you were off.
And
then she had moments of doubt.
Oh yeah. Lots.
Whoa.
Yeah, lots.
Okay.
Especially if, a few weeks later, hey, babe, I need to buy these 2 15-gallon pots. They're $600. What? So she didn't really realize what she was telling me to do.
Or like, oh, wait, what have we gotten into? What?
Right. Oh, wait, there's these things fermenting in my kitchen and upstairs, and the house is smelling like vinegar.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I'd love to see pictures of that. Sometimes I imagine like folks that they're doing their microbrew or whatever, they're out in their garage or they're out in their shed. You're taking over the house.
I was, yeah. Yeah, because it needs to be warm with kombucha.
Yeah.
It needs to be a warm, like 70 to 80 degrees. So I had these like heat blankets and stuff like that. So yeah. And it didn't stay inside very long. Eventually I got a commissary kitchen, like a shared kitchen space, started fermenting things there. And then I actually found somebody to co-pack to basically manufacture the stuff for me. So we did a a big run, 4 flavors, a whole pallet of drinks, which at the time, wow, a whole pallet's going to take me months to sell. Just comparing that to today, I think we just had a distributor order 3 pallets and another one order a pallet and another one order a pallet. We've sent 5 pallets out the door in the past few weeks. So it's just crazy to think back at the time, I was like, how am I ever going to sell this? This is going to, last me months. But unfortunately, the pallet of drinks, those cans fermented into alcohol. The co-packer at the time was not a great guy. He didn't have clean equipment, and turned out that he had really ruined a lot of these businesses' drinks, such as mine, and never took responsibility either. So that was unfortunate. It was thousands of dollars wasted. We tried again. Same thing happened. And then that's when I realized that this was not a good situation.
Wow. When
That was tough.
When that situation hit, you're this is costing you thousands of dollars of product. You can't sell it because it's fermented to alcohol, and he's not resolving the conflict. How did that affect you? And how did you work through that?
It was really tough because the guy seemed great. He actually had a kombucha company that seemed to be successful. And I was like, wow, I've got this partner. He's going to help me. He's going to bring this kind of dream to life and scale it. Because at the time, I didn't have the capacity to put the drinks into cans. I was just selling growlers and stuff like that. So there's these beautiful packaged cans. I'd invested so much time and money into hiring a designer for the labels and all this stuff. And yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking. But my personality type is like, yeah, that sucks, but like, what are we going to do? So I decided I kind of thought to myself, okay, we've got all these drinks, all this product. It's slightly alcoholic. Maybe we can sell it as alcohol. Maybe I start a sub brand. So I sort of started down that road of starting a sub brand, but then I kind of realized like, this is biting off more than I can chew. I need an OLCC license. So I tried kind of these different avenues, but eventually I hired a lawyer and I realized that this guy didn't have any money. So like, there's no point in suing him, and I couldn't even afford to sue him. So I gave it up, and I ended up meeting with him, and I told him, I'll let all this go if you promise to stop co-packing and basically screwing over other people like me. And he agreed. And so I said, okay, I'll drop it. So I had a lot of anger, but I let it go. Wow. So it felt good to let it go, for sure. Yeah. It felt good because that was a really, really tough time for me with really struggling. I wasn't able to sell with drinks or make money, and didn't know what was going to happen. And it just felt like I didn't have a lot of control in that process either.
Yeah. Were you worried that you were going to lose the business, or were you thinking about doing something else because of that?
Yeah. So thankfully, I hadn't really, I didn't actually sell into any stores or anything at that time. So it's not like people were really relying on me. It was after the end of the summer. So farmers markets were over, and I was kind of going to go like, okay, I'm going to get this pallet of cans. We're going to sell them to stores. So it sort of just delayed that. And so I was thankful for that, but it just kind of, I got stuck because I didn't have any product. I didn't have any customers, and I was just trying to deal with this legal battle. But eventually, after all that, it was a lot of soul searching. Because I had just graduated from college with my social work degree, but I felt God was opening this door to do this kombucha company. And then he kind of slammed it closed, being like, nope, no kombucha, no money. But I had a relative pass away, like a great uncle or something like that left some money to the family. And my parents got the money, and they sent me this $10,000 check as like an investment into the business. So I saw that as like, wow, they still believe in me. And my dad, I was talking to him a lot. He was helping me through that because he's a business owner. And he encouraged me, like, don't give up. This is a setback, but like, what's next? And so at the time, it was post-COVID, and people were drinking less. And I got this idea, I'm going to start this NA, non-alcoholic cocktail company. So I did it. I took that $10,000. I did some markets, some farmers markets and events. I hired a couple people, and we started selling these non-alcoholic cocktails they had functional mushrooms in them, like lion's mane and reishi. And one of them, I had like an NA beer that was like an IPA with CBD in it. It was really cool. And yeah, that was fun. That's where I met Trevor, who ended up working for me for almost about 4 years. And fast forward a little bit, I was like, okay, this is it. This is the company. This is going well. Let's scale it up. Let's find a production space. But I don't want to find a co-packer. That didn't go so good last time. I'll do it myself. And I found a facility. Keane Smith, the owner of Good Wolf at the time, I was going to share his space and share some of his tanks. But then he told me, hey, rather than sharing the space, why don't you take it over? Why don't you buy my brand? Why don't you buy Good Wolf? It's not doing so hot. I'm looking to shut it down and sell it. So that's what I did. And my dad helped me buy the brand for an affordable price. And Good Wolf was water kefir, which is similar fermentation to kombucha, got healthy. It also kind of had a NA vibe to it as well. It aligned with my values. And that's how I came about to be the owner of Good Wolf.
That's amazing. So at key points along the way, you met people that really pushed it forward,
Definitely.
and people to partner with. I want to rewind a little bit, Nathan. How did your degree in social work help you as a business owner, or how does it help you
I'll answer that
with
question,
all
but I want to
the
also,
things that you have to go through?
yeah, I also want to add one more just comment to what you said just a minute ago about the people. There were people who helped. And I really see that as God providing the right people at the right time, especially my dad. My dad has been just a huge help and support for me. And Casey, for sure, has always believed in me. And despite the stress and despite some workaholism over the years and different people, I mentioned Trevor, an employee who was with me 4 years. He helped me grow the brand to what it is today. I couldn't do it without him, and just other employees along the way and partners and distributors and just friends. So yeah, I feel really lucky and really blessed because I think owning a business, the statistics are like 90 something percent of small businesses fail. And I think I've been doing this for 5 years. And I think the reason I haven't failed is a couple things. One, just stubborn resilience. And two, the people who have helped me and just God's plan.
Yeah. Amazing. For a lot of business owners, when having an idea, working on a thing in their room, in their garage, in their kitchen, it can be, of course, it can be fun because it's a passion, but translating the hobby or the passion into a business, that can get pretty lonely and stressful. So it's great to have a big team. As you're telling this story, it's 5 years, but it feels like you've gone through like a decade of stuff, of challenges and situations and growth. All the things that you described, learning that you had to do. So besides your social work degree, I'm wondering what lessons you learned from going from Gresham Farmers Market to like a business. How did you make that leap?
That's a great question. Really good question. It wasn't easy. Actually, Silvana, it'll be 6 years in March. So yeah, that's crazy. 6 years since I started the business. 6 years, it's almost 6 years since I started in the Gresham Farmers Market. And it was really buying Good Wolf was really what helped launch into more than farmers markets, into stores, because Keenan he used to be a sales broker, so kind of like an independent sales contractor. And he had relationships. He had really been successful into selling Good Wolf into, I want to say, around 300 stores. And so when I bought it, yeah, we were sort of in 300 stores, but sort of not, because the business was kind of closing down and he had kind of pulled out. But we were partnered with 2 distributors at the time, 2 of the big kind of natural health food and beverage distributors that are known to be really unfair to the small players. And so we fired them. And so we went down to 1 store. It wasn't even a store. It was a corporate office for Stumptown. Stumptown's roastery and corporate office was our only customer, buying kegs from us, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
Still a customer to this day. They drank a lot of our stuff.
Okay.
It empowers them to get all that work done and all that coffee roasted. So that's cool. But anyways, Keenan graciously stayed on for about 6 weeks after buying the company and helped coach me to get into some more stores, get back into stores, hire different distributors to get into these stores, and even do some self-distribution. I'm just running around dropping stuff off. So Trevor, who I mentioned, was doing that as well. So we had the relationship with these 300 stores, and that kind of helped get us back into a lot of them. It took some time for sure. it was a rocky road, but that was my crash course into wholesale sales and how to sell into stores. And man, it's not easy because you have to figure out doing, going on sale, like promotions when it says, $1 off. The store doesn't pay for that. The brand pays for that. And so people don't realize that, that's cutting into our profit margin. And how do you do that? And how often do you go on sale? And, how do you set the price? And how do you get more products into the stores and more flavors? And all these questions were things that I kind of got a crash course in learning. And it's different for every store. And it's different for, so
Wow.
all stores are not alike. That is for dang sure. So it was, and I'm still learning a lot, even after, several years of doing this. It's a never ending journey because stores are evolving. And now you can buy something from New Seasons on Amazon. So just getting into the digital age has been really interesting too, and getting onto Amazon and selling on our website. So it's been a lot. It's like drinking through a fire hose.
Oh man. So the start of your business, your brain, your problem solving recipe, crafting a beverage, finding different flavors and doing that. And you shift from that to this whole other world of
Yeah.
and relationships and
The big
figuring
leagues.
people out. Man. So in that, how does all this growth affect you mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, that's a great question because, man, I struggled a lot with anxiety at that time, having this sort of drinking through a fire hose. If you have anxiety, I think, you can understand when things are new and you have so much new and so much pressure and responsibilities and, a million different priorities. Like I'm still working on the recipes, we're still, managing the employees and all these things and trying to get into stores and trying to figure out, why aren't these people, at the stores responding to my emails? Wait, should I call them? Do I email them? Like who's the decision maker? It was, how do I set pricing and paying bills? And like, I'm not making any money yet. So like, how do I not run out of money, investing more of, our personal money? And so it was really stressful, like really incredibly stressful. And it
Yeah.
manifested
So
as
many
a lot of brain
decisions.
fog. Oh my gosh. Decision fatigue. Really, really tough. I would just get a look in my email inbox and be like, I don't know how to answer these emails. And I would just kind of shut down. A lot of just fear and anxiety and overwhelm and brain fog. Thankfully, I had developed a relationship with a psychiatrist and I was diagnosed with ADHD a couple years before that, the year before that. And so I had already gotten on some ADHD meds. And so I was just talking with him about anxiety and really thankful for that. And to sort of answer your question about how social work degree helped, that would be one way is learning about mental health. So helpful because lo and behold, I've got some, I'm really challenged with my own, my own battles. Um, and so opening up my mind to that was helpful.
What were some of the lessons that you learned with managing stress and overwhelm?
That's a great
How'd you get
question.
through that?
So yeah, how I dealt with the anxiety, with the overwhelm, definitely we did some breathing exercises and that was helpful. I just recently learned a new one. It's the 4-7-8 method. Are you familiar with that, Sava?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. So it's breathing in for 4
Mm.
seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and then blow out for 8. And do that like 3 or 4
Yes.
times. And it definitely reduces some anxiety like immediately, which is great. So at the time I was doing more like box breathing and I was in therapy. I was just kind of being really honest and really transparent with Casey, my wife at the time, back then too. And she's always been supportive and just been there for me emotionally, just letting me unpack and process all the bazillion things going into my brain. I would just, she would always just listen. She's a good listener. And then my dad, as I mentioned, talking to him and the different people. I was actually for 7 years now, I started a men's prayer group and right now we meet monthly. And back then I was coming to them with, what I was struggling with and I would get prayer every month. So that was a support too. So really just filling up my spiritual cup, leaning on my faith and getting prayer at church. You could go up. That's something I love about Eastside is there's always people there that are just ready to pray for you. You can just go up and get prayer. And that's been
Yeah.
powerful too. So all
Mm-hmm.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned, getting on meds, mental health medications and yeah, that all helped, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to take away all the pain. It wasn't enough
Mm-hmm.
to take away all the stress. It was enough where I could
Mm.
get to the next day though. That's all I
Get
could do is
through
just
a day to
get
day.
through the day,
Mm.
get to the next day. And the next day would come and I would snooze my alarm 15 times and
Mm.
have my sheets over my head and not want to get up. But eventually I got up
Oh,
and I faced the day. I've also have struggled a lot with depression, which is the opposite. Once that anxiety builds up and up and up and overwhelmed, then I just go down to the other side of depression and not wanting to face
yeah.
anything and just saying like, you know what, I'm going to watch movies all day today and like I'm going to turn off my
Mm.
email and hide from my team, my employees and everybody. Sometimes I've had those days where I just need to hunker down and unplug and even escape. I think it's kind of been unhealthy. I don't think I was doing it in a healthy way. I think it was just fear based and like kind of escapism.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was more reactive. It was very reactive to the stress. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely had those days too. But as
Yeah.
I have matured over the years, I've been able to be more proactive. And so I've built a really robust morning and evening routine and ritual for myself. Actually, so I'm a spreadsheet guy. I make this like spreadsheet and I print it out and it's got the
Mm-hmm.
date every day, for 2 weeks every day, and it's got check boxes for everything. So the first thing I do with one of the checkbox is write down in my journal something that I'm grateful for. And then another one is eat breakfast. Eat breakfast. Another one is, brush my
Check it
teeth,
off.
take my supplements. Yeah, just then I can check it off, a little win. And I've got a
Mm.
bunch of different things. I've got this kind of daily devotional that I read, and I've got a just 60-second prayer. Just set a timer on my watch for 60 seconds, but just pray for 60 seconds. And I've just got
Mm.
these little prompts, keeping it really simple. In the past, I've tried to do long quiet times and long prayer and journaling, and that just gets overwhelming and I quit after a couple of days or a couple of weeks. But I've just got this routine that it's short. It's like 10 minutes, but it's powerful. And I don't even have to do everything every day. It's just keeping that routine for me. It's just, and if I forget, I've got it on a piece of paper that sits on my table.
You
So
can
like,
see
I
it.
can't forget. I can
Yeah.
see it, and that keeps
Right.
me in that routine. And that's been powerful. It's been a game changer for me, is like having that
Mm.
consistency of having some things that are structured. Brain, just how I'm wired, is very unstructured. I'm more of kind of that visionary ADHD head in the clouds type. And so having some structure is really important to keep me grounded. So yeah.
Mm. That's great. What are some of the items on the checklist for evening or bedtime that are
Um,
helpful?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So, and I will also say this is something that I've just been doing for maybe 6 months, and it's something that it's an idea that I developed in therapy with my therapist. So shout out to therapy.
Mm.
I've been in therapy for over a decade and it's been super helpful. So thank you, Savant, for what you do
Mm.
as a therapist. It's hugely
Thank you,
impactful.
Nathan.
But to
Yeah.
answer your question, some of the evening things are, so there's this concept of the gap versus the gain. Are you familiar with that?
Mm. No. No. Explain.
Maybe you're probably familiar with it, just in maybe called something different, but it's this idea of
Mm.
something that I think a lot of us are guilty of doing is comparing ourselves to what we want to be and to this ideal version of us that's frankly impossible. Well, we're never going to achieve it in life. Like
Right.
somebody who
Very
makes no
familiar with that.
mistakes. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
like, oh man, I suck because I made a mistake today. And I blew my diet and I goofed off too much. I didn't get all my checklists done, whatever. And we just kind of get down on
Mm.
ourselves. Like, tomorrow it's going to be better. Tomorrow I'm going to be perfect. And that's kind of like this gap where we're like, there's this gap between who we are and who we want to be. And so the gain
Mm.
thinking
Mhm.
is turning that. It's just, no, kick that out. That's unrealistic. It's not helpful. The gain is saying, okay, who am I today? And how does that compare to who I used to be?
Mm.
It could be a day ago. It could be this morning. It could be a week, year, 10 years. And I guarantee you can find some way that you've grown over the past X amount of time. And so it's saying, wow, I've
Mm.
accomplished and grown in these simple ways. And then it's just,
Right.
that's really that builds you up and says, yeah, I'm able to grow. I'm a grower, I'm a learner, and I'm going towards something. I'm bettering myself. And so I write down 3 wins or 3 ways I've grown, every night. The first one that I write down. I start it by writing Holy Spirit. And that starts the sentence. And I say, Holy Spirit did this today. And it reminds me to think, what did God do today in my life? How did God grow me? How did God give me a win? And I'll maybe say, Holy Spirit helped me pitch this store, or be present with my son, or something like that. And then I write 2 more things that are similar. And I think that's been huge. And then the next morning, part of my checklist is read the thing from last night, read those 3 wins. And so then I start the morning off like, this is a new day. Wow, look what we did yesterday. That's possible for today too. Let's make it a good day.
Oh, man. Yeah. I can feel how that builds, right? How you remember those good things and carry it into the day. You start out in that mindset. You start out just calling to mind, but also feeling God's care and presence and work in your life. And it's so good. I would say like a quick one to identify is just like, God's help getting us like started with the podcast, right?
Yeah.
We had some bumps, right? And we're doing it. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's powerful. I'm going to be using that, and that's going to be helpful for me. Yeah.
Well, I didn't make any of this stuff up, and I took ideas from things I've learned along the way and just kind of focus them to what fits for me. But I think that's part of my unique ability is kind of getting creative about different things that I hear and sort of putting them together in a system that works and it's successful. And I will also say, I'm not perfect. I don't do my checklist every day or every night, especially on weekends a lot of times, or if my son wakes up early, I don't do it. And that's okay. I'm not trying to be perfect. But the beautiful part is that I can go to my checklist and say, okay, I missed 2 days. Well, where are we at today? Okay, fine today. And restart, and that's fine. And so that just helps me not get, discouraged.
Yes. Yeah. I've been using a fun little habit app consistently. I think I'm on like a 61-day streak.
Nice.
With it. And it's a little similar. Like you get credit for getting out of bed, flossing your teeth. And it's not perfect, but for sure doing a lot of healthy habits more times than not. I'm just calling it to mind. So that structure is really helpful.
So is your app does it sort of gamify it, like gives you points or something like that?
Oh, for sure. It's called Finch Care app. You grow a little bird.
Nice.
You grow them up from a little baby to a toddler to a teenager, adult.
Interesting.
And you get little outfits, and you get them tickets to travel the world when you do your habits. So it's fun, Yeah.
Sweet.
At first I was like, oh, this is kind of silly. But then like, oh no, like two of my kids are doing it. We check in with each other, pray for my family every day is one that is on there. That's really helpful to be reminded, and lots of gratitude on there too.
Yeah.
I
will say one more thing, Sovan, is that one thing that helps me too is accountability. I have a business coach and I have a therapist, and I ask both of them first thing, hello, Nathan, how you doing? Okay. How's your routines? Are you doing your routines? And that's something, when I started with this new therapist 6 months ago, I just said, listen, like I'm in therapy because I need accountability, and can you provide that? Can you, every single time when we get on, can you ask me about this? And they said, yeah, I can do that. Make a note. And then like one time, I think they didn't ask me, and I was just like, hey, I really need you to ask me every single time, because like sometimes I'm not gonna want to bring it up, because like, that's why I need you. So I think it's important to find, if this is something you struggle with, I definitely encourage people to find therapists and just ask them to, hold you accountable. It works pretty well.
Yeah. That's so good, Nathan. And it's a good reminder to me as a therapist too. Sometimes we're pretty attuned to people, and we can kind of tell they're hesitant, hiding, like shame comes in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've learned to do this, right? To call it out. But to be honest, like sometimes it takes courage to confront people.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
when you make it a regular thing, then it's not reactive. It's just what we
Mhm.
do, right? It's just the good thing that we do to like talk about what's really going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not easy, but there's also a lot of security and safety in the consistency of it.
Yeah. 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 I appreciate you mentioning that. And I understand that makes sense that it's tough to be the bad guy as a therapist. But, I've had therapists that I've had like a lot of different therapists that just never really brought up that hard stuff. And like, it's easy for me to just talk about whatever I want to talk about. But I found that
Mm,
wasn't productive. And so I got started a new therapist and just got in a good habit and just kind of set that as a guideline. And it's been really productive and I've found a lot of growth. I definitely
mhm.
encourage people when they're going into therapy to have goals, have real goals and use the therapist as a resource to help and like be specific. So yeah.
Right. I love it when clients want to work on stuff. Sometimes I'll start sessions with what are some words to describe how you feel and how things have been going. But sometimes I ask a focusing question of like, what do we need to talk about today, or what do we need to work on today? We're not just going to be chatting. Therapy is work. Yeah, it's good to have that mindset as a client going into therapy. So I want to circle to something you mentioned, Nathan, workaholism, or being
Mhm.
workaholic. Um,
Mhm.
can you share a little bit about how? Because I'm guessing with there's probably been times with all the things you had to learn, all the things you had to do, the overwhelm that you might have worked long hours.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, can you say a little bit about that and the impact the business had on your marriage or as a dad?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. Well, part of workaholism comes from a feeling of insecurity for me, feeling
Mm,
like, oh, we're not making enough money, we're not profitable. So I can't stop working. I need to work more until we get to this place. But it took years and we still didn't get to that place. So I kind of realized like this isn't sustainable. I need to like work less and change my strategy. And so I think up until about 2 years ago, I was really struggling with it. I would sometimes work long nights and, taking away time just with my wife, work on the weekends. But 2 years ago, or 2.5 or so years ago, when we got pregnant with our first child, I think that's really when I kind of
mm,
buckled down and I was like working really long hours in preparation for the birth. But since then, for the last 2 years, I've just had a motivation to work less because I want to spend time with my family. I've
mm,
found something about myself is that like, it's really tough for me to be like, I just need to stop working. Well, for me in my brain, I can't just stop doing something unless I start doing something else. So it's like, no, I need to
mhm.
stop working and
Right,
start focusing on my family. But even that, like, okay, well, what does it mean to focus on my family and be present with my family? What the heck does that even mean? It's not easy.
right.
So like I realized I need like an activity. Like let's play a game
Mm,
or like let's do yoga as a family or that
mm,
has been helpful to like really make it precise of what we're going to do. Do this with my son or do this with my wife. If I'm just kind of sitting there, my mind is going to wander to work 9 out of 10 times. So
mm.
another thing that's been helpful is just a hobby. I started playing pickleball about a year and a half ago, and my mind
Yeah.
would kind of wander to pickleball. And so it's something. So with ADHD, the way it's kind of described is like your brain, and then you have the thing that you're focused on, and it's like stuck together and like glued together. And it's so hard to like rip it off and like take your attention, put it on something else. But it's easier if you have something else interesting to focus on. So I kind of rip my
Mm.
attention off work, focus it on pickleball, focus it on my family, and just having some things that kind of distract my brain from work has been helpful to combat workaholism.
Yeah. Were you able to see that on your own, or did Casey have to kind of like speak up and ask for
Yeah,
more
Casey's
of your
yeah.
focus?
Yeah, Casey's definitely spoken up and called she'll call it out. periodically, especially if it's kind of slipping back into me being less present, for sure. The other thing that's been
Mm.
helpful is something that I've taken from Andy Frisella. He has this program called 75 Hard, I think. It's like this kind of crazy training regimen. The one thing that I took from that is called the Power List, and it's just making a list of 3 to 5 things to do every day that's like really going to move the needle. And so I make this power list every day, the most important
Mm.
things. And if I can get that list done, then I feel satisfied, like I'm on track. I don't have anything else I need to do. And so then it lets me focus and be present with my family. And so that's been really helpful
Mm.
too.
Okay. Yeah. You get those important priorities, those important things on the power list done. It kind of quiets that part of you that says like, oh, you're not doing enough. You need to do more.
Exactly.
And you can reassure that part like, no, it was a good day. It was productive. I got what
Yeah.
I needed to do done. Yeah.
And now I'm done.
That's really helpful. Yeah. That's really
Yeah.
helpful.
And so one thing I asked my therapist and
Yeah.
business coach is like, hey, can you check in to ask if I'm doing my power list every day? And like, my goal is to do the power list 4 to 5 working days and then do 4 to 5 of the on the list. And so they check in with me to make sure I'm doing that.
Yeah. Wonderful. Now, the presence, focus, long hours, that's the challenge of marriages to being a business owner. Would you say there's been any positive or growth items or ways that being a business owner has strengthened your marriage or grown your marriage?
Well, yes, I think so the first several years of business were just really stressful for me. I was dealing with my mental health issues. First of all, right now, and over the past year or so, my business has really stabilized in a lot of ways, and my mental health has really stabilized in a lot of ways, and the family has stabilized. And, my son, Reese, is now sleeping through the night. And so
Mm.
I'm really grateful for where we're at and where I'm at and where God has really brought me. And so, but before that, man, really stressful, overwhelming. I've been unhealthy. The marriage has been not great, especially with business and a pregnancy and a baby and lack of sleep. It's a lot.
Oh
It's
man,
really challenging. It's really challenging. So,
tough.
and with mental health issues. So, yeah, we've gotten through it all, but I think it's really proven our strength and our bond and our marriage, getting through that stuff and figuring out
Mm.
how to get through it together. That's just been really our number one goal is no matter what's happening, like let's just try to stay on the same team and focus on, this isn't a problem between us or about us. It's a problem out there that we're solving together and just trying to
Mm.
stay as a unit. And it's not always
Yes.
easy, but that's kind of been a big goal. And yeah, so a lot more I could say on that, but I will say for me, when I'm when I'm healthier mentally and I'm keeping my stress under control, it makes all the difference in the world for my marriage.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. So, any other advice, Nathan, for listeners who want to start something new this year, whether it's a business or anything else, just maybe who feel stuck and have trouble believing in themselves or their dreams?
Okay. You know, up until about a year ago, I would have answered this question differently because, I had several years
Mm.
of just sort of not enjoying my life, just being really hard personally, off and on with my marriage, with business. And, I would have kind of told people, don't do it. Don't start a business. It's
Wow.
harder than you think.
Oh.
It's harder than you think. Don't do it. Just work for somebody else or do it really carefully. And
Mm.
that's kind of what I would say now is I'm not going to tell you not to do it. First of all, nobody's going to listen to me because I didn't listen to other people. But I
Okay.
hope you listen to this advice. And that is it's going to take longer than you think. And it's probably going to cost 10 times more than what you think because you can look
Mm.
at another company doing the same thing and say, oh, I can do it because they're paying this price and they're selling it for this price. Well, they're only paying that price because they're at scale and they have systems dialed in. You don't have any systems, you don't have any scale, so it's going to cost you 10 times more and you're not going to make a profit probably. So make sure you're willing to invest 10 times more than you think and assume you're not going to make very much money for a long time. And I
Okay.
was really lucky. Casey had a full-time job, so she kind of supported us until I could pay myself like 3 years. So yeah, just I would kind of be on a financial level, but on a personal level, make sure you're strong mentally. I would say
Yeah.
business is not for the faint of heart. Man,
Mm.
I wish I would have had kind of been able to take my own advice and been more prepared financially and been more prepared mentally. Um, Make sure you have a support system and ask for help. Also, there's so many business owners
Mm.
out there who have done it that you're, you'd be like, well, this is person, I'm a competitor. They're not going to help me. They probably will. Um, Business owners help each other, whether it's a competitor or not. I've seen that. So ask for help, um, and you'll find it.
Yeah. That's one thing I've noticed in jujitsu world and stand-up comedy world, that people give you advice. People that are veterans
Mhm.
like to give advice. I don't know, in pickleball, have you found that that
Definitely.
that
Yeah,
people give you tips and advice?
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Nathan. Wow, you've shared so much good stuff today, Nathan. As we wind things down for today, what's next for you here in 2026? You got another baby on the
Well,
way,
yeah,
but
yeah,
how about for Good
um,
Wolf?
yeah. Well, so, one thing that I forgot to have you ask me is just a little bit more about, just like a little bit more about Good Wolf. I'd love to just tell you a little bit about the brand.
Oh, yes. Yes, please do. That'd be a
Yeah.
great
So
place to wind things down.
yeah. So just kind of the short version is the Good Wolf. The name, it comes from the story about two wolves inside of us. One is a good wolf and one is a bad wolf, and they're actually fighting. They're kind of in a conflict, and we have this like inner conflict. And so the question
Mm,
would be like, okay, well, who's going to win in the conflict? And the answer is it's the one that you feed. So you want to feed your inner good wolf, and you do that by making good decisions. Doing your quiet time. It's eating healthy, maybe saying yes to a probiotic soda and no to a beer or to a Coca-Cola. It's these little things that all stack. And so that's how you feed your inner
yes.
good wolf. And so that's really our mission is helping people, supporting people to feed their inner good wolf. And so we make these no sugar added probiotic sodas. They're sweetened with local apple juice as a sweetener, only 6 grams of sugar too. And then they've got 2 billion probiotics, no vinegar funk, handcrafted by my small team here in Oregon, and we sell in about 500 stores, mostly regional, but some nationwide. You can find us on our website, drinkgoodwolf.instagram. Our social handles, drinkgoodwolf, and yeah, so we've got lots of great flavors. Our top flavor is Oregon Marionberry, as I mentioned. When I was first starting to make kombucha, the Marionberry flavor. But I do want to be clear: this is not kombucha. It's a probiotic soda. It's not fermented, and it's very smooth tasting.
Yes. Quite tasty. I've had the privilege of trying a few flavors, thanks to Nathan. And you mentioned you were at farmers markets early on, but now
Mhm.
you're mostly in stores.
Mhm.
Are you still out in the communities at
Yep,
farmers markets?
we are. Yeah, we
Okay.
sold. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're still in the Gresham Farmers Market. We're gonna cut back. It's been helpful in the past to do our farmers markets, but it's so much work on my team. Working on the weekends, the 10-hour day, it's a lot. Dragging 30 cases of Good Wolf out there. So we're gonna cut back a little bit this year, but we're still gonna do Um, probably around once a week. And we love those communities and the friendships that we've built. People come up to the booth and say, "Hey, Mia," or like, "Hey, where's Trevor today?" Yeah, it's something that we really appreciate and cherish. So I think we'll always do some farmers markets. But to kind of answer your question, what's next? We started a monthly seasonal program in October with Honeycrisp Cardamom, and November Falling Pears, December was Candy Cane Cheer, and then January is Ginger Cleanse. And so we're doing this, and then February I'll drop it. So I'll give you an early sneak peek. February is going to
Sweet.
be Strawberry Strength with 12 grams of whey protein. So I don't know if you've seen these protein sodas coming out. We're going to be doing a protein soda with the probiotics for February. So I'm excited for that.
Nice. Perfect time for when folks are dropping off from their New Year's resolution to get some protein and
Yeah.
probiotic, keep going with those workouts and their gut health.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah. And before we came on, you mentioned maybe an offer for listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to try Good Wolf, You can use the code COURAGE30 to take 30% off on our website. So it's drinkgoodwolf.com. And Savan, I'm sure you're going to list it in the show notes.
Great. Thank you. Very generous offer there, Nathan. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. And wow, an amazing journey. I was doing the math and listening. You said 6 years March. So you started this the month that everything shut down.
Yep.
And you have a unique story and lots of courage to overcome obstacles on one hand. But I do think what you went through is a lot of what even people that aren't trying to start a business or aren't business owners went through during the pandemic. With emotional health and just how the world changed and with family. And so I really appreciate you sharing your story, but also lots of different things that helped you, lots of tools that helped you get through that.
Absolutely.
All right, Nathan. All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Savan. I really appreciate you letting me share my story. And as I mentioned to you right before the call, this was my first ever podcast guest appearance. So it's been fun. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And thanks for what you're doing here with just inspiring courage. It's awesome.
You're welcome.
Well, have a good day.